just 20 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, one of the most expensive, most crowded coastlines on planet Earth. There is a chain of 8 islands most Americans have never even heard of. One of them is patrolled by the US Navy and is still, to this day, used to blow things up. One of them shrank its own foxes down to the size of house cats. One of them holds the oldest human remains ever found in North America. Proof that people were sailing these waters thousands of years before anyone thought boats existed here. And one wealthy family once owned almost this entire chain, then quietly gave most of it away forever. Perfect Mediterranean weather, dramatic cliffs, water you'd expect to find in Greece, not California. And almost nobody lives here. No sprawling beach towns, no oceanfront skyscrapers, no luxury resorts stretching from shore to shore. So what is actually stopping one of the most beautiful coastlines in America from being built on? Stick around, because the answer involves a hidden freshwater crisis, a secret military zone, and a law that permanently sealed these islands' fate. Let's get into it. Let's start with what we're actually looking at. The Channel Islands are an 8-island chain stretching about 160 miles along the Southern California coast, from the Santa Barbara Channel in the north down toward San Diego in the south. They sit inside something geographers call the Southern California Bight, a sweeping curve in the coastline that creates a strange oceanic eddy. Cold water sweeping down from Alaska collides here with warm water pushing up from the equator, and the result is thick, unpredictable marine fog that can blanket these islands for days at a time. The islands split into 2 very different groups. The northern islands, San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, and Anacapa, sit almost in a straight line. Santa Cruz is the giant of the group, so large it has its own mountain ranges and a fault line running down the middle. Anacapa is barely an island at all, a jagged wall of volcanic cliffs with no fresh water whatsoever. And San Miguel, at the far western edge, takes the full force of the open Pacific, battered by gale-force winds and wrapped in fog for most of the year. The southern islands, Santa Catalina, San Clemente, San Nicolas, and Santa Barbara Island, are scattered much further out to sea, separated by deep underwater canyons. San Nicolas alone sits more than 60 miles from the mainland, closer to complete isolation than almost anywhere else on the American coastline. And the population across all 8 of these islands? Just over 4,000 people, and almost every single one of them lives in one town, Avalon, on Catalina Island. The other 7 islands combined have a permanent population close to 0. 8 islands, 100 miles of coastline, 20 minutes from one of the biggest cities in America, and virtually nobody lives there. So how did it stay this way? To understand that, we need to go back to how these islands were even formed, because the answer starts millions of years before any government, any rancher, or any developer ever got involved. Here's something most people don't realize. The northern and southern Channel Islands weren't even formed the same way. Millions of years ago, the Pacific tectonic plate slammed into the North American plate. The collision didn't just push land upward. It caught an enormous block of the Earth's crust and physically rotated it nearly 90 degrees, tearing it away from the mainland and sinking large sections of it beneath the ocean. The northern islands are literally the exposed peaks of that sunken, rotated mountain range. The southern islands were born differently, pushed up out of the ocean floor through volcanic activity and slow tectonic uplift over millions of years. San Clemente, the southernmost island, is essentially a massive tilted slab of earth that has been rising out of the sea for eons. Because these islands were formed through violent geological forces, not gentle erosion or gradual land bridging, the terrain itself is hostile. Sheer cliffs drop straight into the ocean. Natural harbors are almost non-existent. Flat, buildable land is scarce. For any engineer looking at this coastline, roads, airports, and large-scale construction aren't just expensive. They're a nightmare. And because these islands were never physically connected to the mainland, not even during the last ice age, when sea levels were at their lowest, anything that lived here was completely cut off from the rest of the continent. This isolation created something remarkable. Scientists call these the Galapagos of North America. The clearest example is the island fox, a descendant of the mainland gray fox that, over thousands of years of isolation with limited food and no predators, shrank down to roughly the size of a house cat just to survive. But here's the twist. The same isolation that created this unique wildlife also made it almost impossible for humans to reach. And yet, humans got there anyway, far earlier than almost anywhere else in North America. In 1959, archaeologists excavating a canyon on Santa Rosa Island uncovered human remains dating back roughly 13,000 years. Known as the Arlington Springs Man, these are among the oldest human remains ever found anywhere in North America. This discovery rewrote what we thought we knew about how humans first arrived in the Americas. It proved that early people weren't just walking across a land bridge and moving south on foot. They had boats, and they were navigating the open Pacific coastline thousands of years earlier than most textbooks used to claim. For over 10,000 years, two indigenous groups called these islands home. The Chumash lived across the rugged northern islands. The Tongva inhabited the warmer southern islands. With almost no fresh water and terrible farming conditions, they didn't look inward to the land to survive. They looked outward to the ocean. Using redwood logs that drifted down the coast from Northern California, they engineered advanced plank canoes called tomols, sealing the planks together with natural asphalt that seeped up from the sea floor. These canoes let them hunt large marine mammals, fish the region's rich kelp forests, and build a booming trade network with the mainland. For over 10 millennia, this was a wealthy, complex, thriving maritime civilization, completely self-sufficient on islands that, on paper, shouldn't have been able to support anyone. But that civilization was about to be wiped off the map entirely. And what replaced it is where this story turns genuinely tragic. But before we get to that, let's pause for a second, because you now have enough information to understand exactly why this place stayed so empty. Reason 1, there is almost no fresh water here, no major rivers, no large lakes. Rainfall is sparse and unreliable. Even Avalon, the only real town in this entire archipelago, cannot survive on rainfall alone. It runs on desalination plants and strict water rationing just to keep the taps running.
In 1542, Spanish explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo became the first European to make contact with the islanders. For the next 2 centuries, contact was occasional, but it was enough. European diseases quietly began wiping out the indigenous population. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, Spanish missions had spread along the California coast. Facing starvation, ecological collapse from introduced foreign species, and relentless pressure from missionaries, the remaining Chumash and Tongva were systematically relocated to the mainland. By the 1830s, after more than 13,000 years of continuous human habitation, the Channel Islands were completely empty. But they didn't stay empty for long. They were about to be overrun, not by people, but by tens of thousands of animals. After Mexico won independence from Spain, the islands were carved up into massive private land grants. Settlers looked at the open, grassy slopes and saw the perfect environment for livestock. and brought over enormous herds of sheep, cattle, and pigs. For decades, these islands functioned as giant floating ranches, but with no natural predators, the livestock bred completely out of control. They overgrazed the fragile island vegetation, stripping the land bare and triggering catastrophic soil erosion. What had once been a self-sustaining ecological wonder was turning into a dry, barren wasteland. For over a century, from the 1800s through the 1970s, most of these islands stayed locked in private hands, held by just a handful of wealthy ranching families like the Stantons and the Vales, who had zero interest in selling to city developers. But one island broke away from this fate entirely, and it shows exactly what could have happened to all 8 of them. That island is Santa Catalina. Catalina had a geographic advantage none of the others had. A naturally protected deep-water cove shielded from the brutal Pacific swells. Throughout the 1800s, this hidden harbor became a haven for smugglers, sea otter poachers, and pirates hiding just out of reach of authorities in Los Angeles. Then in 1919, everything changed. William Wrigley Jr., the chewing gum tycoon from Chicago, bought a controlling interest in the island. Where others saw a sheep ranch, Wrigley saw a Mediterranean paradise. He poured millions of dollars into building the town of Avalon around that protected cove. He built infrastructure, planted lush gardens, and constructed the massive circular casino building that still dominates the harbor today. He even brought his baseball team, the Chicago Cubs, to the island for spring training to draw crowds. Hollywood stars and wealthy socialites soon followed, taking the short ferry ride from Los Angeles to escape the mainland. So the obvious question is, if it worked once, why didn't it happen everywhere else? And why, even on Catalina itself, did the growth eventually just stop? The truth is, the moment Wrigley proved this land was valuable, a race began. Real estate developers on one side, and a mix of the military conservationists and geography itself on the other. And developers lost island by island. The military moved first. As World War II approached, the US government realized it had a massive unprotected coastline. San Nicolas and San Clemente were seized outright. Sheep ranches were evicted. Radar stations were installed, and the islands became naval gunnery and explosive testing sites. To this day, both remain under strict Navy control, completely, permanently off the commercial real estate market. Then geography and cost took care of the rest, even where the military wasn't involved. The northern islands were brutal to build on. Sheer cliffs, no natural harbors, relentless wind and fog. And that freshwater problem we opened this video with never went away. Running undersea pipelines, cables, and desalination infrastructure out to these islands was financially unrealistic for developers, especially when the mainland still had plenty of open land available at a fraction of the cost. Then in the 1970s, just as developers began eyeing the northern islands seriously, conservationists made their move. They fought a series of legal battles to buy out the remaining ranching families. In 1980, Congress passed the law that sealed it permanently, establishing Channel Islands National Park and banning private construction forever across Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa, San Miguel, Anacapa, and Santa Barbara Islands. And even Catalina, the one island that did become a resort, locked itself down too. In 1972, the Wrigley family made an extraordinary decision. They deeded 88% of the entire island to a non-profit organization, the Catalina Island Conservancy, legally protecting the land from future development forever. Combine that with the town's geography. Avalon is squeezed into a narrow canyon, surrounded by steep mountains, leaving almost no physical room to expand, and its ongoing water shortages. And you have an island that was always going to stay small, no matter how much money came its way. So when you put it all together, the freshwater crisis, the hostile cliffs and lack of harbors, the 2 islands under active Navy control, the national park protecting 5 more, the Wrigley family's conservation donation, the century of stubborn ranching families who refused to sell, the soil eroded beyond agricultural use, the forced removal of the people who once thrived here for 13,000 years, and the sheer cost of connecting these islands to the mainland grid, you start to see that this wasn't an accident. It was layer after layer of geography, history, war, wealth, and law, each one closing a door that developers might have otherwise walked through. 20 miles off one of the most expensive coastlines on Earth, 8 islands stayed almost completely untouched, not because nobody wanted them, but because, one by one, everything and everyone stood in the way. If you found this as fascinating as I did, let me know in the comments which of these islands you'd want to visit. And if you enjoy stories like this, hidden geography, forgotten history, and the strange forces that shape the places we live, make sure you're subscribed, because there's a lot more of this coming. Thanks for watching.